Hello everybody, and welcome to hopefully the very first of many FTC programming tutorials. I do apologize for my voice. I am recovering from being quite sick, partly for the reason of me taking so long to make these videos in the first place. So let's just get right into it. So what I'm going to talk about in this video is getting started with having a copy of the FTC Quick Start on your computer, having Android Studio, opening Android Studio, and what all of that looks like. And then I'm going to kind of talk about the structure of how these videos are going to work in the future, what I'm planning on providing, what I'm not planning on providing, and how to approach learning some of these more difficult programming concepts. So let's get into it. So the very first thing that you need to have on your computer is a copy of the FTC Robot Controller. This can take many forms. What I have open right now is the FTC Quick Start that I'm going to be building for Tigard High School. This is going to contain all of the example code that I write in these tutorials. Now, you can get either a fresh copy of the FTC Robot Controller from First. You can get your team's copy, whether your team has a GitHub repository already set up for you or not, or you can get a copy of this. I'm not going to cover what that looks like in this video. That's something that you should talk to your mentor, whether you should be just downloading a new fresh copy of the FTC Robot Controller from First's GitHub page, whether you should be cloning your team's repository off of GitHub, whether that be with GitHub command line or GitHub desktop. So for now, I'm just going to skip that. We'll talk about that in a future video if people want to see that. And right now, I'm just going to assume that you already have a copy of the FTC code on your computer ready to go. So the next thing you need to ensure that you have is you need to ensure that you have Android Studio. So Android Studio is a Java development environment, and it's what First chooses to use for all of the programming. This whole environment is already configured and set up for you when you download the FTC Robot Controller code. All you need to do is open whatever folder you choose to put it in as a project in Android Studio, and it's all set up and ready to go. So you're just going to click on download it. If your computer already has it, then you obviously don't need to do this step, but if you're using a personal computer and you need to download Android Studio for the first time, here's how you would do that. So once you open Android Studio, it's going to look something like this. And all we're going to do is we're going to click on Open. And then we're going to find wherever we put our FTC Robot Controller code, whether that be the Quick Start that I'm going to be showing in this video, or whether that be team code that you already have a repository for, or a fresh FTC Robot Controller code. So I know mine is in Documents, Repositories, FTC Quick Start. And here I'm going to open this up. So since this is the very first time of me opening this, it's going to run a lot of stuff. And I don't really care about any of this. The only thing I care about is, I care about two things. One, I want to make sure that I've successfully clicked this button. I'm not going to click it right now because it's going to do a bunch of stuff that I don't want it to do. But all this is going to do is it's going to make sure everything you need downloaded, you have downloaded on your computer and everything's configured and set up. We have experienced problems with school-restricted Wi-Fi not allowing what's called a Gradle sync to be done properly. If that's the case, we're, for the time being, relying on hotspots to make sure that this gets done properly. But just something to mention, that's a problem that we've had in the past. So getting started, you want to navigate to the team code folder, Java, and then org first inspires FTC team code. Once you're in here, this is where all of the code that you yourself are going to be writing is going to be. So we'll talk a little bit about how some of this looks and what you should worry about, what you should not worry about in future videos. That's not in the scope of this video. So that's all I'm going to talk about today in terms of getting code on your computer and opening Android Studio. In the future, we'll talk about deploying the code that you build onto a phone, and that'll look like just clicking this button once you have whatever phone you have plugged into your computer, and we'll talk about that as well. So, talking about how these videos are going to be structured and what they're going to look like in the future. I'm going to try to keep these videos as short and as concise as possible. Now, when I do that, I'm going to leave out information, and I know I'm going to do that. But the awesome thing about the internet is that I am a human. You can send me messages if you still have questions about things, and I can respond to them. The crazy thing about the internet is, as you are watching this very video and have more questions, maybe you really need me to go through downloading something from GitHub or cloning something from GitHub, you can send me a message, and maybe I'm on my computer right now and can record a video for you. The amazing thing about the internet is it allows for that, and since I'm not a very popular person, a few people sending me messages and asking me to record videos for is totally doable for me. So send me messages if you have more questions about things I leave out. I'm also going to maybe talk about some things that aren't going to make any form of sense. So, for example, this very first thing, this is a class with an access identifier, and it uses inheritance. Now, I'm not going to talk about that. I may mention that, but I'm not going to explain it in detail. You might not know what that means. That is okay. It's not specific to FTC. It's just a general programming concept, and I'm not going to be covering a lot of those in these videos, and that's okay. Now, it is very hard, in my opinion, to learn programming for the first time in this structure. If you've never written code before and you want to learn how to program, writing Java code in this type of environment can be very, very hard, but that's okay. You can figure it out. I'm going to be available as much as I can with not only with these videos, but also with answering messages and things. So I highly encourage you to just hop in and see if you can figure it out. The big secret about FTC programming is you don't really need to program all that much if you don't want to. You need to understand enough that you can get the robot running, but a lot of that can actually be copy and paste if you're willing to go through the process of figuring out what specific pieces of code are doing. You don't need to know how they do what they do, you just need to be able to recreate what they do. So I hope this video was helpful. I'm going to get started on some new videos, and if you have any questions, send me a comment in this video or send me a Discord message. All right, see you around.